Today we're going to talk about anxiety. I think a lot of people misunderstand what anxiety is. And I think it's very important for people to understand, especially those that are going through it, how this is happening in your body and in your mind in order to deal with it. Now, a lot of people don't want to talk about anxiety. They don't want to let people know that they suffer from anxiety because they think that they're some sort of freak or something. And the truth is that more people suffer from anxiety than people that don't. So it's almost like the people that don't have anxiety are the freaks. That's the funny thing. So if you suffer from anxiety, don't feel like you're a freak of nature, because the truth is you're part of a group that's a hell of a lot bigger than those that don't have it. But anyways, anxiety mostly comes from the midbrain complex and the hindbrain. So the midbrain generates your emotions and manages your memories, and the hindbrain filters your sensory input, controls your autonomic systems. Your hindbrain's made up of your cerebellum, your pons, your medulla, spinal cord, and of course your midbrain's got your amygdala, your olfactory bulbs, your fornix, your thalamus, and your hypothalamus. So basically how it all works is it's basically a stress response activity. And how that works is, I'll give you an example of antelopes and lions. If you've ever watched Animal Planet, I'm sure you've seen, the African safari. You see the lion, you see the antelopes grazing around, and then all of a sudden you see the lion sees the antelope. Now, in order to survive, the lion has to eat. So it sees the antelope and it kicks into survival mode. Its fight or flight simulators kick in. So it needs to fight to survive, to eat, to live. So its adrenaline kicks in from its brain and it goes after the antelope. Well, the antelope is the same thing. Its fight and flight simulators kick in. But it knows it can't fight the lion, so it goes to flee. Now this is what you call hyperarousal on both ends. Now, in a situation where the lion catches the antelope goes into what is called hypoarousal, and it just goes numb. It goes completely numb, completely flat, and it freezes over. It's a brain mechanism to numb the animal and make it so that it can just die off quickly. And human beings actually have the same system in our nervous system. And so how this works is, the brain goes through a stress response activity through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It releases cortisol. It directs the adrenal glands to release adrenaline. The immune system is suppressed. Blood vessels constrict in the digestive system. Blood is forced to arms and legs and brain. The brain goes into a hypervigilance, which is like a hypoarousal. So basically, subconsciously, when we're dealing through stress, without us knowing, our body is preparing ourselves. Just like how the brain used to for the caveman. Now, we don't have to fight for our survival anymore in the sense where we're out having to kill animals, or we're at the bottom of the food chain and we're dodging saber-toothed tigers and shit. That doesn't happen anymore. But our brain still has the same defense mechanisms as if we were living in those times. So what happens is we go through a very complex system of handling stress response. And a lot of times this happens without us even realizing. When our brain puts us in a flight or fight response automatically, but there's no physical situation to deal with, it goes into hypervigilance and hyperarousal, and our brains just kind of shut down. So we feel like we can't breathe, our fingertips go numb, we start convincing ourselves that we're having a heart attack, we can't figure out what's going on, why, and then all of a sudden we just snap out of it. I watched this interesting show on Dr. Oz the other day, and a lot of people were calling and asking, what's the difference between a panic attack and a heart attack? And he was explaining some differences, but he was like, don't worry, if after 15 minutes, if your symptoms start to die down, then it's not a heart attack, it's just an anxiety attack. 15 minutes of feeling like you're gonna die is not cool. I don't want to feel like I'm gonna die for 15 minutes and then all of a sudden go, oh, okay, it's not a heart attack, I'll be alright. No, I want to know what the fuck is going on, because there's no way that I want to go through 15 minutes of feeling like I'm gonna die every day. So we need to figure out what it is that's causing this emergency response in our brain. And obviously it has to do with the added stress in these times that we live in. Because the numbers of anxiety back in the day is nowhere near what we're getting now. Now, I realize population has risen, which would mean the numbers of anxiety would rise. But I highly doubt that 50 years ago there was a higher population of people suffering from anxiety and just not saying anything than the people that weren't suffering from anxiety. So there's something that we really have to concentrate there. Why is the majority of the people suffering from anxiety? And it has to do with high stress. It has to do with us worrying about the future, worrying about future plans, what's going on, being successful. And even when we think we're not worrying about stuff, subconsciously we're worrying about a lot. And the subconscious is what we have to think about. Because the subconscious is what puts our mind into a hyperactive state. Makes us freak out and we start getting panic attacks. So what we need to do, we need to calm down. We need to keep our breathing right. But we also need to on top of a form of meditation. We need to program our subconscious. Programming our subconscious is super important because our subconscious is doing the work for us as we're living our normal lives. These attacks don't just happen. They're happening in the brain without us realizing it, by all kinds of garbage thoughts that are sitting in the back of our brain without us realizing it. So we need to expose the subconscious garbage thoughts, bring it out, and get rid of it. Program it with good thoughts, and you'll see a lot of the anxiety go away. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people that have come to me with anxiety, and I've told them, like, listen, if you program your subconscious to think good thoughts, you're going to feel a lot different in your body. And they're like, fuck off, Rob, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, just try it. Before you go to sleep at night, the 5 minutes before you fall asleep, as you're starting to hit that dozing off dream state, that's the most susceptible your brain is to programming your subconscious. And that is the attitude of thoughts that you will carry with you when you wake up the next day. Most people, when they're going to sleep at night before they go to bed, just before they fall asleep, think negative thoughts. A high majority of the people are thinking worried, negative thoughts. Those are the people that are programming their subconscious to freak out. If you go to bed at night and you tell yourself, this is what I gotta do tomorrow, this is what has to be done, everything is gonna be okay, and you think positive thoughts and program your mind for positive thoughts before you go to bed, you will wake up in the morning and your subconscious will be programmed, ready to attack the day or whatever it is. Now, obviously, if this doesn't work, you may have to see a doctor and you may have to go on medication, but I warn you, once you're on medication, you're probably going to have to take medication for the rest of your life. For the most part, anxiety can be cured by a healthy brain and a healthy heart and positive thinking. And that's really all I got to say about that.